Okay, great. Hi, everyone that's joining. We want to get started in just a moment. I just see that we're getting several people joining right this minute. So I'm just going to let people come in and I will get started in just a moment. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon to some of you, and good evening to some of you. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Community Engagement Forum webinar. This is our first CE Forum of 2021, and we're halfway through the year already. It's been quite a challenging year and a half, and I know that in many places, people are still dealing with significant challenges due to the COVID pandemic. Despite all of those challenges, we have seen all of our partners continue to engage with partners around our ongoing clinical trials, with communities about TB R&D throughout the pandemic, which is extremely impressive, and we really appreciate all of those efforts. Thank you for joining today. I'm going to get started. I just wanted to, Reva, could you go to the next slide? Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get into the agenda. I've asked everyone to keep their videos off when not speaking, and please keep your microphones muted. I think for all participants, you're muted anyway. If you'd like to submit a written question, you can do that anytime during the forum in the Q&A function. And if you'd like to ask a question yourself during one of the Q&A sessions, please raise your hand and we will unmute you and ask you to speak. We do have simultaneous translation in Portuguese and Russian. To activate that, you can go to the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select the language that you'd like to listen in. Next slide, please. So just quickly, for any of you that may be new or somewhat unfamiliar with the TB Alliance, I just wanted to introduce ourselves again. We are a not-for-profit organization dedicated to discovering, developing, and delivering faster acting, better tuberculosis drugs for everyone that needs them globally. Next slide. We're a very small organization based in New York and in Pretoria, South Africa, but obviously none of the work that we do would be possible without a huge network of partners that are implementing clinical trials and implementing community engagement activities, our funders of our activities, and our stakeholders in the fight to find new drugs for TB and the fight to end TB. So this is just a map of our partners globally, and we have highlighted all of our clinical trial sites here, as well as community engagement partners. And many of your sites are represented here today in the participants. Thank you for joining. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to introduce the objectives for our series of webinars for the CE Forum. We will have several this year. This is just one. Normally we would like to meet in person, but we're unable to do that, unfortunately, again this year. We would like to make these webinars available to everyone at the clinical trial site level that's working on Xenex Simply Ctb or upcoming studies for TB Alliance, community engagement staff, community advisory boards, other key stakeholders around the clinical trial site level. And we hope that this opportunity to share experiences and share updates from you from TB Alliance will be helpful in strengthening our relationship between TB Alliance, research sites, and between research sites, CE teams, and CABs. Our learning objectives for the series is to help everybody understand what's ongoing with TB Alliance clinical trials. That's Xenex, Simply Ctb, upcoming Bpamz Siemens study, and all BPA bedaquiline pretomanid containing regimens. At some point in the series, we will also review what's happening in the global TB pipeline, so you're aware of everything that's being developed in the TB drug development space. We want to make sure that we're disseminating clinical trial results as they become available and discussing how those can be disseminated in your local areas with trial participants, community stakeholders, and others. And finally, we would like to provide an opportunity to build capacity for country-level community advisory boards to participate in advocacy around TB R&D. And you'll hear more about this from Ezio Tabara later in the meeting. Next slide, please. The agenda for today, we have a pretty packed 2 hours, so we're going to jump right in. The first half of the meeting will be clinical trial updates. We want to review NICS-TB results and give a status of the ZNICS clinical trial, and you'll hear that from Dr. Salafarida. Sandeep Juneja, our head of market access, will give a status update on BPAL introduction globally. Dr. Moramfulu Olubosi will give us an overview of what's happening with a variety of clinical trials that contain bedaquiline pretomanid regimens and introduce a new study as well. And our partner at Sizwe Hospital, Pinda Galela, will share a strategy for engaging participants and community in the new Siemens study. And then we will provide updates on community engagement and introduce the advocacy training initiative. And then we're looking forward to hearing from all of you as well. So with that, next slide, please. I'd like to just introduce our new Senior Director of Medical Affairs, Dr. Salafarida, and I'll pass it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Salafarida. I work in medical affairs for TB Alliance, and medical affairs is linking research and clinical trials to the clinical practice in real world. Today, I'll be reviewing results from NICS-TB trial, and I will be also presenting the design and status of ZNICS-TB trial. Next slide, please. So as you may remember, NICS-TB trial was a phase 3 clinical trial in highly resistant TB patients, 109 patients who have high resistance TB, either extremely resistant TB or multi-drug resistant TB, intolerant to treatment or non-responsive to treatment. The duration of treatment was 6 months of BPAL, and BPAL stands for bedaquiline, pretomanid, and linezolid. Pretomanid was given in 200 milligram once daily dose. No modifications to this dose. Bedaquiline was given for 200 milligram 3 times a week after 2 weeks of load, and no modifications to bedaquiline dose as well. Linezolid was given as 1200 milligram once daily, and all modifications were allowed to linezolid after the first month of treatment. And the reason behind allowing these modifications to linezolid dose is the expected adverse events associated with linezolid. So dose of linezolid was allowed to be interrupted, reduced, or even completely stopped after the first month of treatment. 3 clinical sites in South Africa. The primary endpoint was 6 months after end of treatment, and the full evaluation of the study was 2 years after end of treatment, or 24 months after end of treatment. This is the study design. Next slide, please. Again, as I said, the primary endpoint was clinical and microbiological status 6 months after end of treatment. And patient outcome was categorized to one of two categories. One is favorable outcome, which means cured, and the second is unfavorable outcome, which includes everything else. It includes clinical and microbiological failure during the treatment. It also includes any microbiological relapse after end of treatment. And it includes patients who require alternative treatment at any point for TB. It includes all withdrawals as well and any death in the study. Next slide, please. If we go to the key results of NextTB, this is the efficacy results of NextTB. It was published in March of 2020, last year, in the New England Journal of Medicine. 109 patients, 2/3 of them with XDR TB and 1/3 with multi-drug resistant TB. As you can see, the favorable outcome, which means cure, which means clinical and bacteriological resolution 6 months after end of treatment, was 90%. So the favorable outcome, the total of both NDR and XDR, was 90%, which means that the unfavorable outcome was only 10%. Next slide, please. Again, as I said, in addition to the primary endpoint, which was 6 months after end of treatment, there was a secondary endpoint, which was 2 years or 24 months after end of treatment. So we followed patients 2 years after end of treatment, and this was presented a few months ago in the CROI, the Congress for Retroactive and Opportunistic Infections. And the result of this 2 years follow-up was, as you can see here, 90% of patients with high resistance TB survived and remained healthy 2 years after completing their treatment. So not only the 6 months after end of treatment, but also 2 years after end of treatment. Next slide, please. If we switch to the safety results, we have almost 3 adverse events of special interest, mainly because they are associated and expected with the use of linezolid. These key 3 adverse events are neuropathy, and neuropathy means pain, numbness, or weakness in hands or legs or feet, and part of it is also optic neuropathy, which happens in the eye. That's why we should monitor visual function, and this is a serious adverse event. Neuropathy usually happens in month 4, 5, or 6 after beginning of treatment. So usually happens after 3 months of treatment, in month 4, 5, or 6. If we go to the second special adverse event is anemia, myosuppression, bone marrow suppression, which is usually represented as anemia. That's why we should monitor the blood counts, the red blood counts to see if there is anemia or no. And this usually happens in the first month or 2, early onset after starting of treatment. The third one is elevated liver enzymes. That's why we should monitor the liver enzymes. Next slide, please. However, as I said, the full evaluation was 2 years after end of treatment. And because there was almost 84 patients reported no symptoms before they start the regimen, however, 57 reported that they have moderate or severe neuropathy after end of treatment, which means that almost 80% of the population had some symptoms of neuropathy. We followed these patients 2 years after end of treatment, and 80% of them reported no symptoms 2 years after end of treatment. That's why we concluded in March of this year that long-term follow-up showed that neuropathy from the use of linezolid goes away for most patients on the long run. Next slide, please. There was 6 patients who died during the study. Half of them were HIV positive, and half were HIV negative. You can see here the day of death during the study and the reasons associated with the expected reasons associated with these deaths. However, there was additional 2 patients who died after end of treatment. If you can see patient 7 and patient 8, patient 7 died 185 days after end of treatment due to natural causes. Patient 8, 300 days after end of treatment, but in the ITT, they should be counted in here. Both patients were HIV positive. Next slide, please. So this is to conclude safety. As we concluded efficacy, all patients in Bpamz regimen were able to complete the regimen except the 6 who died. And this completion rate is very high. It's higher than any treatments for highly resistant TB, and it's similar to drug-sensitive TB. Adverse events, as I said, were expected, well characterized, mainly associated with linezolid high dose, and they were managed with interruptions or reductions or discontinuations of linezolid. That's why we should monitor patients very carefully. Next slide, please. So this is XENIX, and XENIX is a follow-on trial based on NIX. And the objective of this trial is to investigate the linezolid dose and duration. Next slide, please. Because we had adverse events in NIX trial associated with linezolid dose and duration, in this study, we decided to investigate if we use a lower dose of linezolid or a shorter duration of linezolid, or both lower dose and shorter duration of linezolid, will we have a similar high efficacy rate just like NIX? And what will be the safety results? Will we have an improved safety or no? And the efficacy will stay or remain the same or no? So 4 arms in XENIX study, as I said, again, XDR and MDR with the old definition of WHO. 4 arms. The first arm is similar to NIX TB. Second arm, same dose of linezolid, but only for 2 months instead of 6 months. Third arm, half the dose, 600 milligram instead of 1200 milligram for 6 months. And the fourth arm, we're using both, shorter duration of 2 months and lower dose of 600 milligram for linezolid. Again, pretomanid and bedaquiline are the same dose, no modifications. 181 patients were enrolled in this study. They all completed the 6 months of treatment. They all completed the 6 months of after end of treatment, and results will be orally presented next week at the IAS, the AIDS Congress, HIV Congress, next weekend between July 18 and July 21. And again, this is a bigger geographic area. It's South Africa, Russia, Georgia, and Moldova. When we compare this to NIX, NIX was just in South Africa. Next slide, please. That was my last slide, and I would like to thank all patients who participated in our trials, investigators and site staff, our donors, funders for pretomanid trials, and many partners and collaborators. Please feel free to ask any questions, or if you go to the next slide, please, this is my email. You can reach out anytime with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sala. We do have time for a couple of very quick clarifying questions. I see one of our participants has their hand up, Mamalato Safula. If you have a question, you should be unmuted, or I'm asking you to unmute yourself. As an alternative, anyone can type a question into the Q&A box at any time, and those can be answered by panelists during the meeting. Mamalato, I see that your hand is still up, but I think you'll need to unmute yourself if you plan to ask a question. Great, we can hear you. Hello? Okay, we have another hand raised from Nomampondo. Nomampondo, do you want to go ahead? Okay, we're having a little trouble with it. Yes, hi, Alex.
Everybody is on the wrong link.
Everyone's on the wrong link?
Yes.
How so?
Now here, I think.
Okay. I'm sorry. Do you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Let me just double check this. Jessica, do we have a technical issue with the attendees being on attendee link? I see a lot of hands raised now. Okay, is anyone able to type into the chat an issue if you're having a technical issue? And also if you want to ask a question specifically for Dr. Farida or any of the other panelists, I think that entering into the Q&A function would be a good way to go. Okay, great. Okay, so Reva, why don't we move on to the next slide? And I'd like to introduce Sandeep Juneja to talk about Bpal introduction and access. Thank you. Sandeep, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I was double muted.
So I just want to say that in the chat, they say that many people joining now because they were in our wrong link. Should we wait for them to?
Okay. I'm not sure what happened. I'm very sorry, everyone. I'm glad that you're able to join now. I'm very sorry for the confusion with the link. What we will do is share the recording of this meeting. And at that point, you'll be able to review the next TB results with the slides and the recording, and we will follow up with everyone about that to make sure that any questions are answered. I think that based on time, we will move forward. And again, apologies for the confusion with the link. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sandeep.
So, okay. Thank you, Stephanie. And hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to speak with you today and share progress of implementation of the Bpal regimen. A quick word of introduction. I'm Sandeep Juneja. I head market access at TB Alliance, which means I work with partners to create an enabling environment for access to the regimens that are developed by TB Alliance. Before I get into the details of the progress made with the Bpal regimen, I'd like to briefly share with you TB Alliance's philosophy around access. Next slide. At TB Alliance, access to regimens we develop is coded into our mission statement as what we call our AAA mandate. We are developing regimens that are by design amenable to be adopted available, and affordable. And we work with partners to ensure this. As Stephanie shared with you a slide showing a large number of partners, several of those are involved in helping with access. We are grateful for collaborations with those partners, and there are too many to name here, who worked with us to ensure access to our pediatric fixed-dose combination regimen for drug-susceptible TB in more than 100 countries a few years back. And that regimen, that fixed-dose combination, continues to expand geographically in availability. We are now seeing a very nice buildup of similar collaborations for the new regimen for pre-XDR TB Bpal that Dr. Farida just spoke about for those who were able to listen to him. We developed Bpal as a regimen, and in that process helped transform the approach to development of TB treatments that had till then been developed as single drugs added on to older regimens. And this was done keeping in mind the needs of the patient, the need that the so-called markets had conveyed to us that we needed to rethink how TB treatment was done. And so access considerations have a direct input into our research program right from the beginning. We have been also building a pipeline of new TB compounds, as there's a lot more innovation required if we need to further simplify TB treatment. We believe with Bpal, we're just getting started. There is a lot more to come. And all this is in the partnership with a vast number of collaborators. I'll now share with you details about progress of Bpal. Next slide, please. So to ensure widespread availability of Predominant, TB Alliance has entered into agreements with multiple high-quality, low-cost manufacturers. We have a global commercialization agreement with Viatris, and in addition, agreements with two other manufacturers. McLeod's, that is based in India, is a global TB manufacturer, TB drug manufacturer, and Hongxi, that's based in China, that's one of the largest TB manufacturers in that region. To ensure affordability, Predominant is available from the start through GDF at $364 per treatment course in about 150 countries. That's the lowest price that was ever seen for a new drug and a new anti-infective. While Predominant has been available in the United States, where it was approved first since late 2019, supplies to countries across the world have been picking up pace. Viatris has so far supplied or has orders to supply from close to 24 countries. So the spread of Predominant is increasing progressively. Next slide. There has also been very good progress on the regulatory front. Predominant has been filed in 30 countries in the last 18 months since the process began. And there are 8 countries so far where approvals have been received, including WHO pre-qualification. And in 22 countries, the drug is awaiting approval. Apart from US FDA and EMA, Predominant has a growing list of countries where it's approved, which includes South Africa, India, Uzbekistan, and most recently, Zimbabwe and Turkmenistan. In addition, you'll notice that in Georgia, Moldova, and Philippines, apart from other countries, Predominant has been filed and awaiting approval. Next slide. Following WHO guidelines recommending implementation of Bpal under operations research conditions, as many of you may be aware of last June, we've been working directly or indirectly with several countries with help of partners, as I alluded to support operations research for Bpal to help implementation of WHO guidelines. There are several initiatives that are in place now to help implement Bpal, such as by TB Reach, USAID, WHO TDR, and COICA. Riva, can you click once, please? And another time. While all these are very important, I'd like to emphasize the BCAP in South Africa, which is supported by USAID, and COICA-supported project LiftTB being the farthest along at this time. I'll speak a little more about LiftTB on the next slide. Next slide. Yeah. LiftTB is a 5-year project spanning 7 countries, Philippines, Myanmar, Indonesia, Vietnam, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine. The project is focused on providing technical assistance to speed up operations research initially, and later other activities necessary for adoption and scale up of the Bpal regimen. The project will also help collect data from ORs, I'll call operations research as ORs, on a rolling basis to support global policy development. And that data is expected to start flowing by end of the year. TB Alliance has 2 global partners for implementation of LiftTB, namely ITRC and KNCV. ITRC is responsible for activities in Myanmar and Philippines, and KNCV will lead in Indonesia, Vietnam, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine. In the Philippines, the implementing partner on the ground is TDF, and I believe partners from TDF were able to join today's call. And thank you very much for your support. Next slide. As of now, the status of LiftTB is as follows. OR protocols have been developed or close to being finalized in most countries. Of the 7 countries, patient enrollment has commenced in 2, that is Ukraine in October, November last year, and very recently in the Philippines. It is imminent in Vietnam, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. The project includes providing technical assistance to catalyze implementation by getting OR programs off the ground, starting with protocol development and training to data collection and rollout and scale up, which is in different stages in different countries, as I was speaking about, and I'll speak about it in greater length on the next slide. So here is a long list of what will be covered in LiftTB. I won't go through the whole list. You could read this at leisure or write to Stephanie or me for clarification later. But at a high level, the project will. Can you hear me? There was an interruption on my audio line.
We can hear you, Sandeep.
Okay. The project will support operations research for about 600 to 700 patients across those 7 countries, and predominant supplies for patients will be sponsored by the project in several countries where it's difficult to procure the drug without regulatory approval so far. The TA, technical assistance to help develop protocols, data capturing and reporting is included. Training materials and training for operations research site, both clinical and labs, is included, and it includes a provision for system strengthening if required. Also built in is site monitoring and mentoring to ensure capacity building. The project firmly keeps in mind the eventual goal of scale up and includes several activities to support wider use of the regimen once it is possible. It includes engaging key national stakeholders and experts into planning from the beginning so that a plan that is developed is owned by the country itself. Very importantly, the project includes a provision of treatment training for patient advocates and civil society organizations. We will be commencing this work in the Philippines in partnership with TB People, and hope to do the same with another civil society organization in Indonesia soon. We also plan to expand this work to at least one other LiftTB country very soon. So the projects are starting, so the engagement with advocates and civil society needs to keep pace with that, but we are very keen to be able to expand to as many countries as possible. To ensure sustainable availability, we have worked with our commercialization partner, Viatris, to make sure regulatory filings have happened in all these countries ahead of the project starting, and that's been done as I shared. There is also a provision for catalytic procurement of predominant and certain lab equipment and supplies if required, especially, as I said, when lack of approvals makes it difficult. There is also technical assistance for practical matters, such as integration of the regimen in national plans, budgets, for grant reprogramming, etc., if required. And finally, very importantly, we'll make sure learnings from project countries are shared within other countries with other countries in the project, within regions, and globally, so that LiftTB project doesn't just function in isolation. It helps other countries get going with adoption of new regimens and scaling them up. Next slide. Very briefly, including LiftTB, there are now 14 countries that have so far planned or are in advanced stages of planning for operations research or similar implementation research that involves the Bpal regimen or Bpal-based regimens. 7 such countries have commenced patient enrollment, apart from the Philippines and Ukraine that I mentioned. And these are Tajikistan, Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, and Laos. A few other countries will start soon. Next slide. And last but not the least, a note of acknowledgement to our donors and partners without whose support our work wouldn't be possible, especially in these very challenging times. And with that, thank you very much for listening, and I'll be happy to take any quick questions that you may have. Assuming, Stephanie, we are pausing for questions.
Yes, we do have time. Thank you so much, Sandeep. We'll try this again with anyone that would like to raise a hand. Sorry, that was me. Or type a question into the Q&A. You're welcome to do that at any time, and we might be able to address it during the meeting. Otherwise, if anyone has a question you'd like to ask Sandeep, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Okay. Okay, it looks like we have a typed question into the Q&A. And so we can have a typed answer shared there so that everyone is able to see it. I think we will move on then to the next presentation. Just a quick note on technical difficulties. Again, there was a fresh link shared for participants in the WhatsApp group. Apologies again. I think a erroneous link was accidentally shared by someone yesterday. So we're trying to correct that now. Thank you everyone who is joined in today. Could we move to the next slide? And I would like to introduce Dr. Morumfolo Olugbosi, head of our South Africa office and Senior Director of Clinical Development. Thank you, Folu.
All right, thanks a lot, Stephanie. Can you all hear me? Do I have audio?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Just wanted to confirm. Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Folu Olugbosi, and thanks Stephanie for the introduction. Before I start, I just want to say that I hope that you're all doing very well despite this crazy pandemic. And for those of us living in South Africa, also during this current unrest, I am optimistic that everything will be okay. So as a follow-up to Salah and Sandeep's presentation, I just want to briefly update you on another Bpal-based regimen study, which is called, could you go to the next slide, Riva? Yeah, so I'd like to update you on another Bpal-based study, which is known as TB Practical. It's a phase 2/3 study sponsored by Medicine Sans Frontier, that's MSF, and the TB Alliance is a partner, as we are also part of the study steering committee. This study enrolls all rifampicin-resistant TB, So that means mono-resistant TB, INH, or rifampicin, multi-drug resistant TB, pre-XDR TB, and XDR TB. And this study is conducted in South Africa, in Belarus, and Uzbekistan. The study has 2 stages, and it's currently in the stage 2 phase of the study. Stage 1 starts with 3 Bpamz-based regimen, which are Bpal plus moxifloxacin for 6 months. That's regimen 1. Regimen 2 is Bpal plus clofazimine for 6 months. And regimen 3 is just Bpal for 6 months. And there's also a local WHO standard of care arm in the study. The objective or the rationale for moving from stage 1 to stage 2 is based on percentage of patients who culture converted 8 weeks after commencing treatment. And there were already pre-specified efficacy and safety criteria to determine which regimen will move to stage 2. And I think as that was last year, November, if I'm correct, they had that, what I would call an interim analysis or an interim look at the data at 8 weeks. And they made the decision to move forward with just one regimen, which is regimen 1. And again, that's the Bpal plus the moxifloxacin. And all patients will be followed for 72 weeks after randomization. And by all patients, I mean even the regimens that were dropped, regimen 2 and regimen 3 will also be followed up for 72 weeks after randomization. Now, recently, a decision was made by the Study Data Safety Monitoring Committee, and the decision was ratified by the steering committee to stop enrollment into the study based on data that the regimen being studied, that is regimen 1, is superior to the current standard of care, the WHO standard of care. And that more patient data was extremely unlikely to change the trial outcome. I would like to also mention at this stage that there are differences between the bedaquiline in terms of linezolid in this study and linezolid in the next study. So the linezolid used in the next study is 1,200 milligrams for 26 weeks, but you can interrupt linezolid. You can do whatever you want, stop, reduce, so long as the patient can take 1,200 milligrams of linezolid. In the TB practical regimen, the linezolid is 600 milligrams for 4 months, and then it's dropped to 300 milligrams for the remaining 2 months. So that's the difference between that Bpal, their Bpal and the Bpal in NICS. I do believe that there is a slot at the Union conference to present the study data, including again the follow-up of outcome for all the other regimens, including regimen 1, 2, and 3. And we are really very excited to see this data and wish them all the best. Next slide. Thanks, Vera. So this slide is, I would like to give a quick update on another study, which is the Simply Ctb Trial. I think a number of the audience are familiar with this study. It uses a 4-drug regimen, which is B for bedaquiline, PA is pretomanid, M is moxifloxacin, and Z is parazinamide. And it's quite a very simple, straightforward study. We enrolled newly diagnosed drug-sensitive and rifampicin-resistant TB patient. If you are drug sensitive, you are enrolled either to 4 months of Bpamz or the standard of care, which is 6 months of HRZE. And that's about 150 participants each, making a total of about 300 drug-sensitive patients. If you are any of the rifampicin-resistant patients, you are automatically enrolled into the 6 months Bpamz arm. And the number there also is 150 milligrams. The primary idea is to compare to see if 4 months of Bpamz in DS patients is non-inferior to 6 months of HRZE. There is no formal statistical analysis meant for the DR arm, but we will have what we term as a look just to see how it compares to the 4 months Bpamz. Riva, next slide, please. So this study, we just had a database lock. I think that was in July. And we hope to have the full results available for the primary endpoint, which is when all patients have reached 52 weeks after randomization. And we hope to have these results available to share by the ending of the year. Next slide, Riva. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about an interesting study, and I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk about this in this forum. 2 more slides, Riva. The next one. Yeah, here we go. Thank you. So this is an interesting study. It's a Siemens study to evaluate any potential impact of pretormanid on semen count. Now, why are we doing this study? So one is that it's an FDA post-marketing commitment because non-clinical studies, by non-clinical I mean in animals, non-clinical studies of pretormanid in male rats showed some effects on fertility, which is testicular degeneration or atrophy. But it's important to note that this effect was not seen in primates, even at doses which is much higher than what we are currently prescribing for humans. Also important to state that in humans, we've done multiple clinical studies, phase 2, phase 3 trials with exposures to pretormanid in several combinations with other drugs from 2 weeks to 6 months of exposure. And in these studies, we collected male hormone samples and data. And by male hormones, I'm talking about the follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, luteinizing hormone, LH, testosterone, which is T, and inhibin B, which is INHB on the slide. We combined the data from this study to see if in all these trials that we've been doing so far, all the clinical studies we've been doing so far, have we noticed a negative impact on male hormones? So what do you expect with regards to male hormones? What would you say is good, is positive? So what you would expect is that for most patients that come into studies with TB, they are generally hypogonadal because they are sick, and that kind of affects their well, I would say their fertility state. So what you would expect is that if pretormanid is not affecting the male hormones, you should see a decrease in FSH and luteinizing hormone compared to baseline, and you should see an increase in testosterone and inhibin B compared to baseline. We have combined the data from all the studies, again, to see that any negative impact, and we have not seen any issue of concern. Actually, I will be presenting this data at this year's union meeting. And we're also planning to get this published in a peer-reviewed journal. In addition, we're also conducting a paternal survey. Again, we've been having many studies involving preterminate, and to just see if the male participants were able to father children. And we're getting data on this, and we've gotten a lot of positive, reassuring results so far. Riva, next slide, please. But again, to fulfill all righteousness and to comply with the FDA requirement, we will conduct a Siemens study. And to also mention that it is important we conduct this study, because without the results from the study confirming that there are no issues with any potential impact on semen, we will not be able to study the regimen in the pediatric population. So that is another important reason why we need to do this study. So this slide shows the study design, which is quite straightforward. The regimen used is the Bpamz regimen, and the patient population is the drug-resistant population, similar to, like I mentioned earlier, for Simply Ctb. Patients are treated for 26 weeks, that's 6 months, and followed up for 18 weeks. I will clarify later why we are following them up for 18 weeks. In this study, we need about 20 valuable patients, but we are thinking we will probably require about 25 patients enrolled to get to this 20, because there could be some invaluable patients due to the extra procedure required of patients in this study, which is semen collection. Next slide, Riva. So in terms of semen collection, like I mentioned, during the study, we'll require these male patients to provide semen at specific time points in the study. We require a single qualifying sample during screening or within a window of -9 to -1 days. And we just need that so that we can ensure that the patients are able to produce semen and ensure that the participants will be able to qualify for the study. It is important to mention that for any semen sample collected, it has to be preceded by no less than 48 hours of sexual abstinence. And we are also collecting 2 samples, which should be separated by no less than 48 hours. So another semen sample, which is known as BX, will be collected at day 1, basically. But there is a window of -1 to day 2. And the 2 samples, the QX and the BX, will be averaged for each patient to be able to determine the baseline sample for the analysis. Now, we'll be only doing 1 semen test based on the requirement from the FDA, which is a semen count. So we wouldn't be doing semen motility or other tests. All that is required is a semen count. There will also be a requirement for semen collection at weeks 12 and 13, between weeks 12 and 13, and also at the end of the study between weeks 26 and 27. The final collection will be 18 weeks after ending of the treatment, which is week 44 to 45 time points, with a window of ±7 days. And again, during these visits, 2 semen samples should be collected during those weeks, but again separated by no less than 48 hours. Now, if a patient has received at least 18 weeks of treatment and then early withdrew afterwards, we will still require 2 Siemens samples to be collected. Okay, next slide, Rita. So what is the rationale for the study design? So we're using 6 months because, again, all the regimen, approved regimen are for 6 months. Bpal, Bpamz are all 6 months. And then we need to be able to show that after a 6-month treatment, there was no impact on any semen or fertility concerns. Now, we thought about using Bpal, but the problem with Bpal is that linezolid has also shown toxicity on testicular function in non-clinical studies also. So using Bpal will confound the data for preterminate, which is why basically we've decided to use the Bpamz regimen in DR patients in this study. Next slide, Riva. So again, I talked about 18 weeks follow-up after the last dose. And again, why are we talking about 18 weeks? It has to do with the semen generation from the seminiferous epithelium in the testes. For you to have a good quality and volume of semen after ejaculation, you need at least 1.5 cycles. And by cycle, I mean the process of the semen generating in the testes. And this also includes passage through the epididymis. Now, each cycle is about 75 days. And if we say 1.5 cycles, that's 75 plus half of 75, which is 37.5, and then plus the cycle through the epididymal transit time of 10 days. So in total, that is about 122.5 days, which comes to about 18 weeks. So this is how the 18 weeks follow-up came up. Now, there will be stopping rules. And by stopping rules, I mean, in case we see there will be some kind of guidance to guide the study, in that if, for example, we are having a semen count of less than over a certain percentage, then we need to stop the trial. So just for safety reason, we're going to set up a set of stopping rules, and we will have a reproductive safety monitoring committee, which will be consisting of 3 fertility experts who are, again, experts who have served on previous reproductive safety monitoring committee, and also the medical monitor and the study physician. And this group will convene after the first 4 patients were enrolled, and then quarterly afterwards, again, to review the reproductive parameters. So it's quite a unique study. We hope to have first patient in by the end of July. I mean, touch wood. Okay, next slide, Wheeler. Thank you. So what are the objectives of the trial? So very quickly, again, is to just show if there's any severe adverse event on testicular function. The primary endpoint is change from baseline in the total sperm count at 26 weeks. And the secondary endpoint will be change from baseline in total sperm counts at weeks 13 and week 14. And also, we're also going to be collecting male hormones in the study, and we'll be evaluating change from baseline at all these weeks, as stated in the slide. And the reproductive hormones are the same as we've always done in our previous studies. Next slide, Riva. I wouldn't go too much into this. Efficacy will be based on bacteriological failure or relapse, or clinical failure, again, like our previous studies, at 45 weeks after the start of treatment. And we would also have a look at proportion of participants with sputum culture conversion to negative were measured at weeks 4, 8, 12, 16, 22, 26, and 44. And of course, we will also be evaluating safety, especially in terms of treatment emergent adverse events, death, safety labs, including LFTs, and of course, also the ECGs. So with that, I think that would be my last slide. And I think, Pinder, you're up. Please let me know if you have any questions. And thanks for listening.
Thank you, Folu. Pinder, if we could move to you, and then everyone, we will have a Q&A session after that.
Good day, good afternoon. Hi, colleagues. My name is Pinder Kalela. I work at the Clinical HIV Research Unit. So thank you, Dr. Folu, for the lovely presentation as well. I'm not sure if everyone can hear me.
We hear you.
Oh, thank you. So my focus will be more on community engagement regarding the Siemens study, as well as support to the sites in South Africa with regards to the Siemens study. So this is a very sensitive study. Well, I guess it's a bit new, and also there are maybe there might be challenges that are there, but my job is to give support and to give strategies or how to work in terms of supporting the structure as well as my site as well. So my presentation will be very short and simple. So can you please move to the next slide? So we know that within each and every study, there has to be community engagement, which is put into place. And also one of the functions of community engagement, we are the middleman between the community and the clinical site. And we give support to both of these syndicates, whether it's the clinical site and also the community. So as I said, that my job is to coordinate and give support. So we'll work closely with the CE teams across all sites to ensure that similar approach for engagement is put into place, specifically support. So support will be there also psychologically, will be there also physically, strengthening support for all sites via different platforms in terms of community engagement. We'll also frequently check to discuss ongoing enrollment issues, participation question, need of support. So we know that within each and every study, there might be challenges, there might be questions, there might be concerns. So we'll put structures into place to support our study and also to ensure that we have a smooth sailing in terms of the study, representing communities and participation engagement with regards to the Siemens operational team. So also the Siemens operational team, which are Stephanie, Dr. Folu, and other colleagues also working with me, will be giving support as well to all the sites in terms of psychologically, physically. If ever there are any questions or concerns with regards to the site, participant, the community's support will be there. And I'm glad as well that TB Alliance is on point with regards to this. Weekly or daily updates will be given for support, communication at all times via WhatsApp, emails, calls, they'll be there. Also, we know that we cannot go out there without training, consultation, and workshops. So, so those are plans that are in place, recruitment plan and recruitment retention, community engagement plan, and also retention as well within our communities, and the site is also put into place. Input into recruitment and informed consent. We want people to be able to understand exactly what's the Siemens study all about. And if ever there are any questions or concern, even suggestions, we'll be there also to jot down, record, and also give feedback as well, timelessly. As I said before that, another plan will be that we'll be having weekly or day-to-day communication. So also via WhatsApp and also other platforms, because we know that currently we cannot always see each other face to face. So those plans will be put into place as I speak. Special consideration, focal points for participant support, psychologically, group discussions, also maybe joining the mail forum, mail forum groups or other platforms, which will also try to organize. If ever there are those ones which are already in existence, will also join as well, just to discuss so that they understand the importance of the study. Why is this study being done? And what's the purpose of the study? And why do we really need participation? We know that very well. COVID is high, especially in South Africa numbers, but also safety measures will be put into place so that we do have support. Anticipation of participant concerns and questions. I've already spoken about that one. We cannot have a study and not have comments or questions. So we need that as well from CAP members. We need that from clinical staff, and we need that also from our partners as well, because we will not be working only together. We will also need to ensure that our participants, they understand exactly why do they need to participate, and why do we need them to come for all the visits and also follow up as well. So our retention plan needs to be strong and have a good strategy in terms of moving forward, and also align an approach for the participant engagement. So our participants also need to know that we are having partners, that they are within their communities, and we also need to inform their families as well that these trials are not only done in South Africa, but they're also done in different sites and different countries. And we also need participation to also find better working, simpler ways to treat TB. And as much as Dr. Folu said that it is in support of the drug predominate. So in closing, colleagues, we really need support from all partners, from the local to national. And we also need support from our participants, also their families, and also their NGOs who are within. In terms of addressing as well questions or concern, we'll also jot down questions and answers as well, so that if ever people have questions, we know that we can always refer to our platform of question and answers. And also, we'll be also noting every question. There's no wrong or right question. So every question that it is relevant to the study, we'll also note it. My last comment, we need support from all the CAP members, which are our most important partners. So moving forward, we are looking forward to doing the study. As Dr. Folu said, that we are planning our first patient around end of July. So currently, we'll be pushing it via community engagement. So thank you, colleagues, for an opportunity. And I hope that we will all get the support from within different structures in terms of getting participation, and also the most important one, retaining our patients. We know that we are facing challenging times, but we need to retain our patients so that we'll get at least good end results to our studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pinda. And thank you to all of our panelists. I want to just open up for questions. I had seen some hands raised before, and now I see one from Benedict. Go ahead, Benedict.
Thanks, Professor. Thanks for the presenter. Mine is just more of the recommendation than the question. But the recommendation for us is coming from the activist movement, but before that, Benedict coming from Enhancing Care Foundation, site in Japan, the chairperson of the CAP. But the first question will be, but before jumping to the first question, Betsy, let me appreciate that the researchers right now are on our side to do more of the research and development in terms of the TB, because the TB is one of the contributing factors in terms of the mortality, more especially in the developing countries. So it has been the far cry for us as an activist for quite 25 years that we haven't seen much of the new and development in terms of the TB. But the question will be, as much as I highly appreciate the Bpamz, but my question will be, why are we adding the pyrazamide? Because the pyrazamide have been there for quite a long time. Because for us as an activist, we are waiting for more on the new research development, on the new more molecule entity than the previewed molecule entity. That's the first question. The second question will be directed to Comrade Galela. On the issue of the community mobilization as well as the community engagement, don't you think, Comrade Galela, right now is a high time to put the issue of the mental health, more especially for the participant as well as for the community? Because if you look at the global, this is the one issue which is remaining behind, Comrade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benedict. So your first question regarding pyrazanamide, may I just ask Folu to address? And Benedict, can you just confirm you're asking why we are using PZA still or why we are not?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yes, Representative Party. The question will say as is follows. As much as we appreciate the new innovation when it comes to TB treatment or the Bpamz, but why are we adding the pyrazamide? Because the pyrazamide drug has been there for more than decades ago. So we are looking forward on the new research and the development, not to compare the drugs that have been used, and we know they are adverse event and so forth. So we are looking for the head-to-head, the new one versus the new one.
Thank you. Okay, so Folu, if you could address the question on the continued use of PZA right now, and possibly also we can go over discovery portfolio at a subsequent meeting as well.
Right. So thanks, Benedict, for your question. It's a very good question. So I mean, the Bpamz regimen is something we've been working on for years before we got to the point of actually having the Simply Ctb study. To be quite frank, till today, it's still the most potent regimen amongst all the regimens that we have. It's very bactericidal, and it basically kills the tuberculosis very effectively compared to any regimen that we've ever developed. But you are right. Pyrazanamide is old, although it's still effective, but it does come with its burden, which includes side effects. And quite frankly, which includes liver abnormalities and liver results. So we also appreciate this, and we are actually working on newer molecules. And so just quickly mention, we are working on newer bedaquilins, which is, we have two molecules we're looking at, which is 876 and 587. We are working on newer linezolids, which we hope will not have no or little, preferably no peripheral neuropathy, myosuppression, or any of those horrible side effects. And that molecule is 223. So these are things that we are looking for newer regimen, combining this newer bedaquilins, newer linezolid with pretomanid. And most importantly, we're trying to bring down the duration of treatment from 6 months to hopefully 2 to 3 months. That's the ultimate dream. So yeah, summary is that I hear you. and we are working on newer drugs and newer molecules. And thanks for your question.
Thank you, Folu. We also have one question related to the Siemens study written into the chat that I'd like us to address. But before that, Folu, could we just go to Pinda's question? Benedict also wanted to ask you, Pinda, about the incorporation of more mental health focus in all of our participants' engagement and community engagement work, I think, as well as the approach to clinical trials.
Thank you, Comrade Kumalo, for a great question. As I noted before, that there are structures in place for our participants, as well as our CAP members and the community at large, which is trainings, workshops, and ongoing consultation, one-on-one, and also group discussion. So within those meetings, there will be trainings, especially we really need mental strength as well. So mental strength, it is based on psychosocial support from within our sites and from within larger groups, specifically in clinical trials. That will help us, Comrade Kumalo, to have an easier communication for also our participants to stay, or rather to be recruited, because they cannot stay if ever they are not recruited and educated properly. So education will be there from the start of the recruitment up until end of follow-up, as well as one of the important things is its results dissemination. So that also strengthens our communication with our participant, and also it strengthens our communication within the communities, because if ever people are recruited, are educated, and also are retained to the study, and after that they did get their end results, and also they did get the results dissemination, it will have we will build trust within our communities, and we'll have trust within our participant. So mental strength, it is entirely based on how do we engage our participant in terms of having a communication via education. If ever there's WhatsApps, we also share information with them. Every time they come for the visit, we also check that they're okay. Are they still interested in participation? Do they have any questions or any concerns? Are they able to talk about why are they within the, why are they doing this specific study? Do they understand the purpose of the study? So, Comrade Kumar, I'm not sure if ever I have answered you correctly, but it is based entirely on how to engage our studies with our participants. Do we share them with every information? Do they understand the informed consent from the start to the bottom? When they sign there, do they really know why are they consenting? Will they take part from the first day up until the last day? We do know that some people change and also withdraw from the start, even though they withdraw, but they need to withdraw whilst having full information of the study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pinda. I know there's a lot of questions coming up now. I just want to take this time to address a couple of the other clinical questions that have come up, and hopefully at the end of the meeting, we'll also have another chance to do some broad Q&A. Folu, a question for you, and I'm going to combine two that are written into the chat. One talks about what if the Bpamz Siemens study shows bad results, what will happen to the other clinical trials that include the Bpamz regimen? And similarly, the question about what happens to any of the other regimens that contain pritomanid?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. So, I mean, bluntly, if the Siemens study turns negative, it would affect not only ongoing clinical trials or planned clinical trials of pritomanid, but even approvals that we've had with regards to Bpamz. But I'm looking for the right word. I'm confident, I'm reassured that we won't be in that situation, and for the following reasons. One, again, like I mentioned, it was this signal or this toxicity was in only in rodents and not in primates in the non-clinical toxicology studies. I have personally, and the team has looked at male hormone data in many trials that we've done with pretomamide, and it's very reassuring to me. Lastly, we are, like I mentioned, doing a paternal survey to see men that participated in our previous studies, were they able to conceive children? And we've identified a number of men who have been able to conceive children. So I'm personally reassured, but again, we just need to see what the results of the Siemens study will show.
Thank you so much, Folu. Due to time, we do need to move on in the agenda. We will address the written questions throughout the rest of the meeting. And if we're unable to get to any of these questions during the meeting, we will answer them when we send out a summary of the meeting directly after. So please feel free to continue writing your questions into the Q&A function, and we'll have another opportunity to have a couple of people raise hands and speak their questions later in the meeting. Reva, could you move on to the next slide? We just wanted to provide, we're transitioning a little bit away from the clinical updates, and we're going to focus on our community engagement activities updates, and we're going to hear from all of our CAP members as well. Next slide, please, Reva. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about how we're going to use all of the information that we've received from our clinical colleagues and market access colleagues and share this information. Obviously, it's really critical that any clinical trial results or updates, they get shared with community advisory board members, other key stakeholders at the research site level. I just wanted to share, in addition to the presentations that we'll be providing over the CE Forum webinars, we will share this information with everybody in other forums as well. Any published results that come out, whether it's last year from the Nix-TB study, this year we're anticipating the Xenix results will be shared next week at the International AIDS Society Conference. As soon as results are published, we will initiate a series of communication emails to various stakeholders immediately. And so you should all expect to see those written results that were presented at the conference within the next week and a half by email. And once that is shared, you should feel free to share that widely with all of the partners that you're currently working with on community advisory boards and other partners. We will share what is public information as soon as it does become public. But then we want to spend a little bit more time on the results with all of you, and like we have done with the Nix-TB results, presented them at multiple interim results stages as well as publication stages, now final results stages. We will do the same with all other Xenix results. To wrap up, just some last needs to share Xenix results with any stakeholders if that is a need. I will be sharing, post this meeting, a few pieces of materials that you can use to share those results with anyone that has not yet received them. That will be a high-level summary of the outcomes, a template script that you could use to share those high-level outcomes, similar to what Dr. Farida shared in the presentation today. If you choose to have a dissemination of results, communication over a phone call, a Zoom, or a WhatsApp, and some infographics in addition to what you've seen today that could easily be shared by text or WhatsApp, and however you're communicating with either trial participants or other stakeholders. We will share all of those same types of materials with the Xenix results as soon as they come out as well. With that, I'd like to pass it to my colleague Reva, who is going to talk about some of the progress that we've collected from all of you in progress reporting. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. So some of you might be familiar with this, but for those of you who aren't, we send out a survey to community engagement sites every quarter where we basically ask questions about what sites accomplished during that quarter, and also if there were any issues that came up. We put together a little report to share. Unfortunately, I don't have time to present the entire thing, but this is going to be a quick preview of that report from the survey, and you'll be able to review it later in the slide deck. So just going through, we collect some different information from folks, basically what engagements were going on during that quarter, how many, and sort of what types and what topics were focused on. We also like to ask sites to let us know a little bit about a highly impactful event that might have been happening. And then for the last quarter, World TB Day was a big event that lots of our sites participated in. So we like to collect just a little information and some nice pictures from everyone, just to be able to share what's going on around all of our sites. And then another thing we like to collect from our cabs is just any questions that might have come up in the community, and we share those and just like to know what's going on, if there's anything we can help with. And as a preview to hearing from cab members from our CE sites today, in the last survey, we actually asked sites about their community advisory boards, specifically if members of their cabs were also members of other organizations, and if they would be interested in being more connected to the wider TB network. And basically what we heard is the majority of sites said that they do have cab members who belong to many local community groups. And all sites would like to be more connected to a wider TB advocacy network. So we really hope that these forums will be one way to help cab members reach the goal of being more connected. And then finally, just a reminder, we will send out the Q2 survey soon, and we may add some questions about your experiences today to it and want to hear a little more about it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Reva. I think, could you advance the slides? I think something got stuck there. That's perfect. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Ezio Tavora from our Ready TB site in Brazil, who's going to introduce our advocacy training initiative.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the participation. I see that we have a big participation out of the 20 TB Alliance sites. I'm very pleased to be leading the community advisory board for the Simply Ctb Trial in Brazil. And I'm very glad that we are together today to assess what are the information that we will work on and the needs. Next slide, please. As Stephanie highlighted in the beginning of this session, we are going to have a series of webinars until the end of the year, as it was explained. And this will be an opportunity, as we've seen today, to understand Zenix, Simply Ctb, and the Bpamz Siemens studies, and understand what are the consequences and the opportunities of each study. This is also an opportunity for us to strengthen our cross-site level exchange and opportunity, and we will be focusing on capacity building on the community level, so that we understand and participate fully in TB research and development. The objective is to build the capacities on a local, national, and regional level. We want to see that we are more familiar with the aspects that involve the study results, and also what involves the application or implementation of study results. So this will be a good opportunity for each one of us to strengthen our capacities as advocates and be fully participating in policy discussion. Ultimately, what we want is the common goal for all of us, from researchers, communities, governments, is to improve the quality of the studies we conduct, and to see better treatment, and to see the impact of new technologies helping us achieving the goals for having the disease under control. So this session today will be identifying opportunities to participate in different forums and be discussing some of the needs that we have to be addressing our needs. Next slide, please. So we are going to have a series of presentations. As I requested every one of you, the slides will just have 1 minute. So I don't need you to be presenting or reading the slides fully, but more presenting what is the idea of your slide. Please stick to your 1 minute because the time is short. We want to have time for discussions at the end, so that will preserve and guarantee that each one of us will have time for discussion. And as long as I request you to jump in, I would kindly ask you, the others, to keep microphones off naturally and open your camera if possible. So we can go for the first presenter, which is Bagamoyo. Sayed Abdul Hai, are you with us?
Okay, so the Bagamoyo team is having a technology issue with sound. I think we'll try to come back. Omar will come back to you. Yeah. Okay,
Juliana will speak in Portuguese, but she'll have the translation into English for most of the audience. Juliana, the floor is yours.
And Juliana, if you could unmute, thank you.
Olá, todos me escutando?
Sim, escutamos.
Primeiramente, agradeço o convite de estar aqui nesse espaço. Me chamo Juliana Reich, sou assistente social e trabalho na área de prevenção e cuidado de uma organização da sociedade civil, o Centro de Promoção da Saúde. O CEDAPS ele tem como missão promover o fortalecimento de organizações, grupos e coletivos de favelas e periferias aqui no Rio de Janeiro. Faço parte também do Fórum de Tuberculose do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, onde represento a minha instituição, faço parte do Comitê Comunitário de Acompanhamento e Pesquisa, CCAP-TV Brasil e Simply Ctb Brasil. Bom, a minha primeira conexão que eu gostaria de falar entre o CCAP e os grupos de advocacy, atores políticos e representantes de governo, é o constante envolvimento da sociedade civil nas pesquisas de tuberculose, o estímulo à cultura do acompanhamento comunitário através de nossos encontros e reuniões. A segunda conexão é a mobilização dos espaços de discussão com o poder público, lideranças comunitárias, para o aprimoramento de políticas para a tuberculose. E aí temos como exemplo dessa articulação a instalação de uma frente parlamentar de prevenção e combate à tuberculose da Câmara Municipal do Rio de Janeiro e a Frente Parlamentar de Combate à Prevenção à Tuberculose e HIV da Assembleia Legislativa do Estado do Rio de Janeiro. Outra sinergia importante é colaborar para que esses espaços de decisão de políticas públicas em tuberculose e pesquisas sejam de real interesse da comunidade, né, dos ativistas, das lideranças comunitárias, de pessoas acometidas pela tuberculose. E para finalizar esse eixo de conexão, a participação em espaços de controle social é fundamental, né? Então, conselhos distritais, municipais de saúde, o próprio Fórum de Tuberculose do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, que é uma instância de mobilização, de articulação, de representação política, né, dos coletivos, de organizações de sociedade civil, de gestores, de profissionais de saúde, de áreas afins, né, envolvidas no enfrentamento da tuberculose e suas comorbidades. Essas são 4 conexões existentes entre o CCAP e outros grupos de advocacy e o próprio governo. E aí trazer agora as lacunas, né, de capacitação que nós destacamos. Então, uma delas é a utilização de uma linguagem simplificada, popular, nas produções científicas, né, e traduzidas para o português. A gente entende que isso é uma lacuna e é fundamental para a gente desenvolver a participação em ações de advocacy. E a outra que nós destacamos é a necessidade de um aprofundamento no cenário científico e no desenvolvimento das pesquisas no país, pela sociedade civil e pelos participantes, inclusive, do CCAP e dos nossos parceiros. Preciso ser breve, 1 minuto, acho que foi. Tentei.
Obrigado, Juliana. I don't know if the translation was fully for everyone, so I will just quickly say that Juliana is a civil servant by formation, and she belongs a community organization which works with the communities and community leaderships, especially on less favorable in less favorable conditions, such as slums, etc. The community advisory board of Simply Ctb has good connections with the different forums. It participates fully on health councils and in the state of Rio forum for tuberculosis, which involves not only the communities, but also governments, local and state level. Has been working on multi-sectoral collaboration, and especially the parliamentary front for tuberculosis, which was mostly supported by the communities. Juliana highlights the need for simplified language translated into local languages with to be able to make able for communities to assess the scientific content and understanding, and need for a deeper understanding of the scenario. So that's the goal. Thank you so much, and thanks for the translation. Next.
Thank you.
Sandy. Sandy Balfour.
We don't see Tandy here. Can someone send us a chat if she is on under a different name, and we'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
And Jessica, could I ask that we open up all of the lines so that we can more quickly unmute those that are speaking? Thank you so much. Sandile, you're up.
Thank you once again, Professor Sandile Kumalo, Enhancing Care Foundation, Fighting Government South Africa. Most of the members of the CAP are representing advocacy movement, the likes of National Association for People Living with HIV, Treatment Action Campaign, Advocacy for Change, sex workers, traditional healers, positive women's network, higher institution of learning. So we focus more of those organizations. They have a history to bring about the treatment in South Africa from the early 2000s. But right now, those organizations, they are still more robust and vocal on the issues of access to treatment, as well as on the issues of the adherence. And more than that, they are not just doing their advocacy in silos, but they engage with the government through accountability structures, the likes of Ward AIDS Council, District AIDS Council, Provincial AIDS Council, and the South African National AIDS Council, and to ensure that all the political leaders, government, the account in terms of the accessibility of the healthcare services more especially on the issues of the treatment. What capacity would we like to build in this year? Truly, without any doubts, we need to put a new face on the TB and able to analyze the impact of the TB in developing countries and be able to make an impact in the TB campaign. So what do you mean by saying so? It's not just the matter of doing the campaign, but it's just the matter of doing an impact of our out of those campaigns and to ensure that what have we achieved on the certain campaign, and try to analyze as well what.
Sorry, I think we muted you, Sandile.
Yeah, Sandile, we lost him.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. So, and to ensure that we put the good face on the TB and able to analyze the impact of the TB in developing countries, including the South Africa, because the TB is one of the diseases which is still regarded as an orphan disease in different ways, and try to make a strong balance on the social and medical response on TB and able to bring about the demand creation in prevention, treatment, and adherence from the grassroots level, not to do the bottom-down approach, but to do the bottom-up approach to ensure that from the community level, core community are more aware of the services related to TB and other issues as well, and also to build a strong advocacy from the grassroots level to create a strong voice in the national or in the global level. So it goes without saying, we shouldn't go to the national level and forgetting about the grassroots level. So we need to more strong advocacy on the grassroots level and create a more literacy on research and development on the new drugs or rather molecules or devices for the tools, particularly for infant and people living with HIV. Because one of the issues in globally is more of the diagnostic tools than the treatment. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandile. Yeah.
I think we have Tandy actually from CHRU. If we could go back and
okay.
Tandy, you can unmute yourself. Okay, we're just opening up that line. Are we connected? Okay, Tandy, do we have you? There we go.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I'm Tandy from Cape, South Africa. Sorry for that glitch before. I couldn't unmute myself. The question that was asked in our site, it was that we do have what links do we have as a CAP in terms of government entities. So we do have those entities like our CHRU. CHRU, we have the hospital link. So we are able to do advocacy with that, with their help. But then we feel as the CAP, we still need to have more of that, emphasize more on that so that we can have more links and we could have more capacity relationships in communities, because we don't just have Alexander only, but we also serve communities outside Alex. So we would like to have build more capacity in terms of building more strength and having more structures like more clinics surrounding Alex, inside Alex and outside Alexandra.
Thank you so much, Tandy.
Thank you, Tandy. So next will be Pamela from Port Elizabeth.
Pamela, you can unmute yourself.
Is talking with me. Yes, this is Valeria, because there is a message for me, but I was seeing the presentation. This is Valeria Rola.
Valeria, yeah, I received a question for you in the Q&A, and we will try to address that either in a typed response, or we'll address that in the summary of the meeting.
So I don't have to answer now.
No,
No, not now, Valeria. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank
I'm
you.
asking because the screen showed me a message. Unmute your mic and answer the question. I didn't understand.
No. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No
okay.
problem.
We have to go through the community presentations now. Thank you. Pamela.
What I understood.
Thank you. Pamela, are you with us? Pamela from Port Elizabeth? If not, we can go to the next one. Next presentation, which is David, Dato Jacqueline from Tbilisi. Hi, Dato.
Hi. How is it going? Hello.
Great to hear you.
So I represent Georgian CAB, and concerning the questions, the first question was what links exist in your CAB in advocacy groups, policy-related stakeholders, or governmental officials? So the CAB members are NGO representatives who have good relations with different Georgian-based and international NGOs and CBOs as well. Concerning governmental officials, 2 of the CAB members are represented in CCM, where they can present their ideas, opinions, and address different issues. At CCM meetings, Minister of Health is present as well. Also, one of the deputy ministers is former civil activist who most of the CAB members know personally. Network TB people representative with whom several CAB members work became TB caucus coordinator and can present issues in TB control. About the second question, what capacity would you like to build this year for your CAB to be able to participate in advocacy, and at what level would your CAB most like to have impact? We would like to, build capacity in equal accessibility for clinical trials and experimental treatments, as well as early detection of children's and extrapulmonary TB and its short-term treatment. And the level would be TB program, governmental level, and if necessary, of course, international. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. Thank you for your presentation. Next one is Jacqueline from the Kilimanjaro Clinical Research Institute.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, my name is Jacqueline from Mwanga, Kilimanjaro, site Tanzania. Are you hearing me? Hello?
We hear you. We hear you very well. You can go. Yeah.
Our question is link existing in our CAB to advocate groups, policy-related stakeholders, and governmental officials. The Kilimanjaro Research Institute, in collaboration with Kibongoto, have made a good link with NTP, Regional Education Officer, government, TB leaders in the village, and the regional leaders. The CAB of every district have 14 members, which is mixed of TB coordinators, world leaders, health teachers of the both primary and secondary schools, religion leaders, and community development representative. There is also 2 leaders who is responsible to coordinate the CAB. Another question, what capacity would we like to build of our CAB to be able to participate in advocacy and at levels would like most likely to have impact. We would like it to build capacity in the following areas. Bullet number 1, knowledge of TB disease. Transport means to reach the community, because our map of our areas, the community was far away. Also increase in TB notification. Also contact tracing to the family, for instance, for the patients, where the patients are diagnosed. Also to reduce of death from TB disease. Last one, to reduce TB disease transmissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you. Thanks for your participation. So from King Dinizulu, Dudu? Dudu, can you unmute?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Yes, Mtuduzi is a member of Etegwini Community Advisory Board. So I'm in Devon. Etegwini is the name of the metropolitan municipality, which means there is a lot more people settled in this area. Here we have our structures. We have a law which is called Public Participation Policy Framework, which allows us to engage to many various valuable stakeholders, your municipal policymakers, provincial policymakers, even in national policymakers. As Kumalo said, we have something called Ward AIDS Councils, District AIDS Councils. It goes straight to the national structure, where the head is no less than a deputy president of the country. Here we have that opportunity. Our structures like Operation Sugumasake, which is the Zulu version of the Operation Let's Stand Up and Build, which is where the war rooms fall in and the Ward AIDS Council falls in. There are various also other structures that help our democracy to work in a practical way. E.g., I'm a chairperson of a clinic committee where the TB is treated here. There are also other structures like hospital boards which we engage with. The capacity we need more is ability to engage these government officials and policymakers, the ability to and the skills of negotiations, negotiating skills, so that we can put our views and let our thinkings be heard there. And the area we want to operate at, in a short term, we need the local, as the Durban has 110 wards, and the provincial level, which is easier for us because we have 2 cabs in this province, which is, the other one is at Maritzburg.
Yes.
Yes, we can save them because our province has only 11 districts, and the national will also can be communicated by our provincial structures, because we have 9 provinces. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And this is a richness from South Africa that you have so many cabs and you can iterate. And we'll be working on that. Thank you so much, Dudus. So next speaker is from Madinberg, Aubrey. Can you open your microphone?
Hello.
Yes, we hear you. Yes, we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'll try to conform to the 1 minute house rule. Yeah. Then to our first question, we responded as follows. Number one, we've got the Department of Health, and then we've got the Department of Social Development, and the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, the Department of Correctional Services, traditional leaders, might even local municipality, local office of premier, traditional healers, local NGOs, and CBOs. And on the second question, our first response is as follows: the virtual trainings during lockdown. The second one is attend advocacy meetings. 3, assist with TB education in communities. And the fourth one, and receive study updates more often to be able to inform the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aubrey, for sticking up in the 1 minute. Thank you. Well, you were the first one. Thank you. Next one, from Tanzania, Mike.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Concerning with the first question, which says what links exist in your CAB and the other groups, other advocate group, police related makers, and governmental officials. Here in Mbeya site, we have no any relationship, any links between the CAB and the mentioned group on that related question. But the research center, the research team has been established in network with regional and the national TB community society organization and other government officials like national TB and the Reproductive program and other groups. Also, if necessary, we expect to establish activities to link the CAB and the mentioned group that can be conducted. According to the second question, I would like to have train CAB on how to conduct advocacy activities, and also to have platform that can enable CABs to share experience concerning with the issue. And lastly, the CAB will have impact at local and regional levels. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is great points. Thank you. Next one, Alex from Moldova.
Thank you, Ezio. Good day to everyone. My name is Alexandru, and I've been given the opportunity to present the advocacy experience of our CAB. Getting straight to the point, the links we have to advocacy groups are the Key Affected Population Committee that includes representatives of country 5 key affected communities from over 15 organizations, and TB NGOs platform, which engage over 10 TB active non-governmental organizations. The links we have to policy-related stakeholders are both TB and HIV Technical Working Group. And final, for the governmental officials, there are Council of Experts and country coordinating mechanisms. These structures function under the auspices of the Ministry of Health. So for the second question, we think that building in-depth understanding of the country health policy and the rationale of decision-making processes from a systemic perspective, of course, would be really, really useful for us. And the last but not least, it is hard to determine or forecast the level of our impact, but the key stakeholders who are trying to reach for are the Ministry of Health and the National TB program, of course. That would be all. Thanks for the attention. Ezio, over to you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for your contribution. Very good points. Next presentation. Kausa, from Tanzania. Kausa?
I'm Kauswa, speaking from Mwanza, Tanzania.
Yeah.
As the question displayed on the screen there, our CAB is working very closely with the existing government structures. We incorporate with the government leaders at the local levels, like ward executive officers and MTA executive officers. Also, we are working with the community leaders at the local levels, like village executive officers, who we call it like gatekeepers. And on the second question, the area we need to be capacitated. As a CAB members, we need to be capacitated on a TB research literacy that will enable us on community-based research, on designing or reviewing, and also we need to be capacitated on a community. To be capacitated on a communication skills that we can be able to address the TB issues on the community level. Thank you, Trevor.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This is powerful points. Thank you. Next presentation, Alex from Ekaterinburg.
Hello, everyone. Are you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well.
Thank you so much for being with you. I'm Alexander Chebin from Ekaterinburg, Russia. And I'd like to mention one big problem here in Russia. We have very strong HIV community here, but we don't have strong TB community. And we think this is the most important thing now here to build a strong community. And as you can see here on my presentation, Ksenia Shenina and I, we are part of Prevention and Control movement. We collect information about tuberculosis treatment on our site, which name is piriboy.ru. Also, we have strong communication with leadership of anti-tuberculosis services in Sverdlovsk region. Not only Sverdlovsk, but because I live here in Sverdlovsk, I can tell about Sverdlovsk region. And also, we taking part in the Russian community for access to treatment meetings. This is very good platform to gather activists, representatives of pharmaceutical companies and GRs getting together to discuss different points. Also, now we think about to create and register new non-commercial organizations here in Russia, TB People Russia, as a part of international movement TB People, and we think this very important to make our community stronger. Also, we want we will take part in a resident community for access to treatment meeting in October, November this year, where we can talk about issues that we have. And also now we want to make expansion of the services with the participation of community-based local NGO here in Ekaterinburg, because they are very open to communicate with, chief of TB. The sponsor is very open to communicate with non-commercial organization. So thank you so much to let me share this information with you.
Thank you, Alex. I mean, this is very important. It's lovely to hear from Russia your perspectives and the progress you guys have been making. Thank you so much. Next presentation
Thank
is Motamai.
Good afternoon. I wonder it's afternoon at your side.
Yeah, here is morning.
I'm from South Africa, from Sechaba Research Center based in north of Pretoria. From the first question, I said most of the CAPE members come from those NGOs, and they advocate for people living with HIV, people living with disability, human rights, and etc. That means we also have policy related. CAPE have a good communication with all relevant stakeholders, that are policy makers, or can influence decision making that can impact on sales as SRC operations. As government officials, we have government officials within the CAPE, and is well represented and have an excellent relationship and collaboration with relevant officials to put value on SRC. And also it's very important for us to nurture those collaborations. So those collaborations that I'm speaking about is the three spheres of government, which is local, provincial, and national in South Africa. So that relationship is there. The second question, capacity empowerment to form community, to be formed from community level to a level of three spheres of government, to ensure everyone who have relationship with SRC understand SRC mandate, because we have the challenge in terms of research in our communities. People do not understand what research is. So we need to make a very great impact in ensuring that people understand what is the mandate of SRC. PLNE empowerment amongst ourselves, SRC CAPE members. It's an opportunity for us also to participate today, to also learn from other CAPE members within the broader spectrum of the globe. So yes, we ensure that we learn from each other. The impact should start with ourselves as CAPE members, individual capacity and commitment from CAPE members, organizational capacity and on commitment. So it comes from both sides. As an individual, I bring my commitment, and the organizational also bring its own commitment in ensuring that we do well for enhancing the research within the community. Providing access to training, knowledge, however, it also needs individual commitment. You cannot impact the knowledge on someone who doesn't need that. So as long as you need it, SRC as an organization will also ensure that it assists us to also be committed in our individual empowerment. I thank you.
I thank you. I mean, the powerful presentation. Thank you so much. Next up, Bongani from Task.
This is Tepo Kabutu. I think Bongani is having problem with connection.
No
so I
problem.
will just go ahead and present on his behalf.
Thank you.
All right. So like I said, Bongani Makwenko is one of the chairperson for the two cabs we have at in Cape Town. So what links exist in the cab to advocacy groups? We have collaborated with different advocacy groups, focusing on different issues in different townships. You know, each township has a challenge, and we have actually tried to be part of, you know, some of those groups that are more active in the townships. You know, groups such as Masibonisane, their youth group, they encourage young people to know their health rights and take steps to prevent, teach, and encourage other young people. And the group has really made a great impact. And the team has been part of that. And also the Western Cape Social Development has giving CAB members some of the, roles to be part of the empowerment project, raising awareness on, social problems such as GBV. Gender-based violence has been a very, very high challenge in most of the communities. So the CAB members are part of those groups so they can be able to help and assist and engage in terms of research and educate the community. And so in terms of the capacity that the CAB would look forward to and become part of is that the communities, like I said, are they have new health issues almost every day. There's more stats rising on young people having TB, young people having HIV. So CABs, the two CABs have actually come up with ways to be part of those groups, educate the communities in all aspects, and also not forgetting making sure that people remember there's TB, because more people are more focusing on COVID-19. So that's the plan. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much. Next, we'll hear from the Philippines. Rosalind?
Hi, good day to everyone. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, very well.
Okay, so thank you. Actually, the Tropical Disease Foundation did not have a CAB during both the STAND and the Simply Ctb trials, but we've been able to work with local government offices, so both at the city level and at the lower levels, for recruitment activities and the community engagement activities as well. So in recent months, we've been working with the TB People Philippines, which is a patient advocacy group, for the community engagement webinars that we've been producing. And we hope that we would be able to work more with TB People Philippines, maybe perhaps as a CAB level, or perhaps we could be able to help them develop other branches of CABs as well, and hope that we would be able to help them establish a bigger presence, as well as help them with particularly sustainability, with ensuring a regular number of people working or cooperating with them as far, and other challenges as well with organizations such as these. Thank you.
Thank you. This was great. Thank you. Next presentation, Dudu from Think. Pietermaritzburg. Dudu.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'll be just straight to the point. I'm just presenting on behalf of Dudu Kumalo, our CAB member. I think she has some network problem. So in addressing the same question as other people have been saying, the link, what link do we have? I think in South Africa, we have a common link that we work within, as my other colleague from KZN has been presented. Whatever we are doing, it's based on a National Department of Health, which is policy, and a national strategic program on HIV and TB, and also STI implementation, where our TB CAB will work together in this implementation. We also have a civil society forum, also a working group for consultation on TB, specifically for advocacy, which is supported by our official Office of the Premier through Global Fund. So we've been able to have to launch our research sector, because within the civil society, there is a lot of sectors, but there was a gap when it comes to the research. So we'll be able to coordinate with the Office of the Premier to have a sector for the research. So which we are looking at all the districts within the province that are doing research, so that we can create a informed sector. We also have our own TB advocacy network, which also is a link resource. The TB advocacy network, it was formed, as I've been saying, with the help of AFSA, its foundation, where we work with TB patients to train them on advocacy and then to train them on how to tell their story. So that network has been formed. The capacity that in our CAP we need. So in order to have a meaningful participation, we all know that stakeholder and community engagement CAP are part of it, either internal or externally. We are also looking at the TB update to be able to engage in dialogue for advocacy. I think so what has been happening today is part of our eco that we need to have more updates on TB. But in order to translate this information and updates, we also need to be capacitated on public speaking skills so that we can enable our CAP members to be more vocal and visible in their platform. The platform that I'm talking about is the platform that other Mtutuzi was talking about in a war room, in a district AIDS council, provincial AIDS council, because since we want to launch the sector now, meaning that there is a voice now for all the researchers. So who's going to be our voice is the CAP members. So those public speaking now are I think for our side, I think is a number one priority. And also looking at the abstract writing, we've been collecting more information, having more of webinars, but where is the platform that we are capable to do our abstract? We've been sharing our community expertise, expectation, the highlights of what we have done, but where is that kept? Maybe one of the training and the capacity that we need as CAP members, let's engage ourselves in abstract writing so that we can have this abstract sharing, to have our own internal conference, so where we can capacitate each other in the TB issues, and also to have our TB journal. The one who's been writing something on TB, let's have a journal clubs so that we can share our work. CAP members have been the experts in the community engagement, but what I've been observing the gap, where are they sharing this? Where is the platform? After the research, what is happening with our work that we have done as CAP members? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dudu. I mean, and it's great to hear your voice again. Next, Moziani from Chepong.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day to all.
Chepong, can you, Moziani, can you speak closer to your microphone? We hear you bad.
Thank you, sir.
Now it's better. Yeah. Thank you. Moziani, I'm sorry, we still don't hear you very well. Can you speak closer to the microphone?
Oh, yes, sir. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, now it's better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name is Musiani and the name is Masibi. I'm speaking from Makrosana CAP, which is in Tepong Hospital, South Africa, Northwest is a province. The links we have set actively and strongly relationship with community members, as we have been having community engagement in our area of operation and district. We have also formed a stakeholder relationship with NGOs and other CBs and government of departments in our area, such as ORAM and the Right to Care and Shut It Out. Our capacity, we would like to provide community with information that is very useful and relevant and giving assistance to research projects that are currently running. That is recruiting, helping with the recruitment for a research, what you call it, with research that is going on. We would like to try and work together with recruitment team and convincing for new participants, especially because of with the current lockdown, we are experiencing some restrictions as to how to work and meet with our communities. That is the difficulties that we are facing at the moment in South Africa. Would like to reach high levels of platforms such as big health conferences and awarenesses interviews on a national TV platforms where we advocate for our research unit and our community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Moziani. Great presentation, great points. Thank you. Next speaker. Rosalind from UCT.
Good afternoon. I'm Rosalind Swartz from UCT, Lung Institute, Cape Town, South Africa. What links exist in our care? It's our local and provincial health department, our health workers, health coordinators, and health promotion officers. Our local NGOs, our CAP, work hand in hand with our local NGOs in our district and also extended district, our TB and HIV care, and the NGOs that is closely linked to our government. It's ANOVA, YMCA, and NACOSA. The second point, what capacity would we like to build for our CAP in the near future? In advocacy is the research and the literacy and study training. Our CAP is very active and we are up to date with trainings. Every time we had trainings concerning TB and HIV and AIDS. Is also to build our knowledge and resources to be able to participate more in advocacy. We would like to participate on all different levels, our local government, our provincial government, and our national government, SANEC. I had the privilege to be on all the different government levels. I was also part of the team that was drafting our HIV and AIDS policies for 2017-2022. And when we are able to be on our top levels, then our voices can be heard more and we can come strongly through for our communities. Now, the communities the district that we work in Mitchell's Plain, at the moment, are the top district with the highest HIV and AIDS and TB rates in South Africa. More community representation are needed on our national level. On our national level is the final decision-making around our policies, around everything. And if our community and our CAP members can have more representation on there, then it will be much easier for the message to go through to our government. And also our CAP, our UCT Lung Institute, really give our CAP members opportunities to lift ourselves out and to be the voice, the middleman between our CAP, our research side, and our government. And thank you for the TB Alliance that give us this opportunity to enrich ourselves more, to learn more, and to educate ourselves more, to be better persons when we approach our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosalind. This is beautiful. Thank you so much. So I think this is time for some comments on the presentations. I'll go quickly over that. We
Sorry,
have,
Ezio?
yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to see if we have an audio connection for Syed in Bagamoyo. I'm not sure if that was working, and also just to check to see if Pamela is on. I know we're running very late, but if they're connected, it would be great to hear.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm speaking from Bagamoyo. It's great,
Thank
great.
you.
You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. Would you like me to do some comments, please?
Yeah, please go quickly through your slide. Yeah, if in 1 minute, if possible.
Okay, fine. I'll go very fast. We are connected directly to the Ifakara Health Institute, and the medical officer of the district is also aware of what we are doing. And we are trying to bring up our cab because we have 20 members from the villages, and we're trying to train them. We are having seminar almost after every 2-3 months. I could go on, but I know I'm short of time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Syed, and sorry for the connection problems in the beginning, but we'll be working with you closely. Thank you so much. Stephanie, do you have somebody else missing or not?
Only Pamela from Port Elizabeth, and I'm not sure if we have a connection there as well.
Yes,
Just checking.
Can I just present on her behalf?
Please, thanks, Mary.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Hi, this
1
is Mary
minute.
from. Yes, it will be very fast. This is Mary from Port Elizabeth. So our CAB is part of a larger forum that's called the Nelson Mandela Forum, which has a lot of stakeholders within that forum. And also some of our CAB members are employed at the local council, at the local clinics and hospitals. So the second question was, we're training capacity for CAB members to be more knowledgeable about CAB-related issues, and also trainings for a larger group for more research literacy trainings for them to understand the researchers more. And also a CAB would have an impact on metro level to have more impact to educate other stakeholders in CAB-related issues and activities. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for Port Elizabeth to participate. We have so many comments to make, but I would like to go through some of how sort of a summary of what we've been through. I mean, I saw that the Philippines mentioned the fact that some cabs, some sites do not have a structured cab or a structured format for community engagement, but there are many formats for community engagement. Community engagement can be done in many different ways. One thing that I heard from SRC, which was quite powerful, is the aspect of cooperation. I mean, how communities and researchers and the research centers work together to improve the conditions of civil society to understand and follow up studies, and also participate in the discussion, in the technical discussion in research. We saw also some people mentioning the aspect of the impact on the policies. I would say more than the impact in the policies. I mean, this was through many people mentioned that. But we have to think that more important than evaluating, or I don't like measuring because we don't, the aspect of qualitative aspects, we cannot exactly measure, but we can evaluate the impact. More importantly is to evaluate the process. And the process is quite impressive because we saw 19 powerful presentations today, and many of you show excellent skills to be working. Many people also mentioned the fact that they work more on a local level, and they would like to make more of a participation in the provincial or state or national level. This is definitely possible. This is the idea that we have, that we will be making you participate more, interact more, and learn from the others' experiences and practice, because this is a process. This is not something that is that we have to think that is something that occurs naturally, quickly. It is a process. It takes time. It takes negotiation. There are sometimes we give one step forward and two backwards. That's normal. That's part of life. That's part of the process. But we are doing an incredible progress. So from Alex in Ekaterinburg, we also heard about the fact that there are still would say like a weak community response for tuberculosis in comparison to HIV and AIDS. Alex, this is universal. I mean, we see that everywhere. We started actually with community mobilization in tuberculosis out of the AIDS advocates and HIV and AIDS advocates. So this is normal. This is not a phenomenon that happens in Russia only. This is quite universal. But we are changing this, and you are an excellent example of that. So we have to think about the many aspects, the many opportunities that this forum will bring. I think everybody spoke about advocacy, improve its skills. I mean, the need for improving the capacities to do advocacy in several levels. Also, the training in treatment literature, so to understand how treatment goes. I mean, we had excellent opportunities today, but we should go further on that. So work on this matter, as well as we go together with the research literacy. So we have to understand more of how the research process goes, and so that we understand also what are the outcomes of the study and how they can actually then impact the disease in our countries. So, and we will understand how important these research opportunities have, what they bring as opportunities to our countries to improve policies and treatment. I think was Dudu mentioned about the abstract writing. This has to do also with improved research literacy. Durban spoke about the policy framework that we have to build. Yes, definitely. I mean, this is the process of engaging in policy discussion will generate that, and we'll be working on that. Many people spoke about communication skills. I mean, simplified language, as the Simply Ctb Cab in Brazil mentioned, and many others mentioned the need for communication skills to be speaking in public, to be addressing information, and that's exactly the specific objective of this capacity building. We want to make everyone more comfortable with the information, the research information that we bring from the TB Alliance studies, which are in fact very important and really innovative. I would even say revolutionary in some aspects. We have seen Durban mentioning the balance, the need for balance in the social and the medical understanding, response and the understanding, and that's crucial. Thank you for bringing this aspect as well. Georgia also spoke about to assess other studies, to understand the implication of other studies and how this can connect with the current the context, the conditions that we have, and the need to understand the broader scenario of research. Kilimanjaro also mentioned about to manage that community should understand also the aspects that involve TB administration, which is very interesting, very important to understand how notification, contact tracing goes, death reduction and transmission, and how do we work with that. This is also very important so that people understand how is the functioning of the health systems, etc. Madinburg mentioned about that we have to use this the virtual capacities that we have created during COVID time that are pretty extensive, but this also help us to be in contact more often, so by means of webinars, etc. So we have to improve the virtual skills and the capacities to communicate also in the local and national level. And to finalize, I would like to highlight a very important point that Moldova brought in terms of to understand what is behind the policy rationale when the policies are defined. And what am I saying about policy? When I say I'm talking about improvement of the guidelines, how do we change or improve our treatment guidelines? So what is the process? How this happens? Who makes the decision? Who takes part in the decision process? So understanding this rationale is critical, and to see the perspective from different sides. So I think this is very important for each one of us to understand. I would like to before we go to the final moments, I would like to ask if there is some burning question or comment that somebody would like to jump in, so that we can conclude, because we are 37 minutes after our time. And thanks for being with us. If somebody has a question, or if you could raise your hand. Okay, so I think we can. I don't see. Oh, I see two hands up.
We have one.
Yeah, I see three hands up. I don't know which hands are these. Let me see here. Yeah, Ashley. Ashley. Ashley, can you open your microphone? Oh, Motsamai?
I think we have Ashley now.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
No, I just want to ask something. I think regarding that, the last time we had some positive result on that snakes and leather that has been created by the TB Alliance. Would it be a much bigger, broader, because ever since COVID came in, I think there was a little bit of neglect surrounding the TB awareness, I think. But I think it needed quite a good results regarding this around that I would usually go to the clinic, and some of the younger people, I would take them through that. Would there be more of that available? That some of those kind of material, so educational material?
Ashley, thank you so much for mentioning that. You're absolutely right. This year has been extremely challenging for engaging continuously. We will share all of the results that were published in 2020, we will go ahead and share all of those materials with everyone again. We do know that there is still some need to disseminate that information, and then we will prepare the Xenix results, which are coming very soon, so that you have all of the up-to-date BPAL results available to all of you.
Thank you. Motsamai?
Good afternoon. It's more of a comment than a question.
Yeah.
I like the engagement today, and hopefully my take is that we would learn much from the other CAP, from the other regions. And it was a great opportunity and eye-opener for all of us. And I really appreciate. I thank you.
Thank you. I mean, in Africa, we have South Africa with many sites, and the capacities in South Africa are tremendous. So the opportunities that we have to interact there, and also we have Tanzania with several sites playing a beautiful role, and we can learn a lot from each other and from cross-region. I mean, we will have many opportunities. We have planned 4 more webinars, but we can plan beyond that. I mean, that's what we will discuss with you, and hopefully assess all the points that you raised. Dudu, yeah, can you? Thank you, Motsamai.
Yes, Ezio.
Yeah.
Yes, Ezio.
Yeah.
Mine is that some participants in this webinar, we're engaging with them for the first time. We wish them to have an access to that database you have, so that we can engage further on each other.
Absolutely.
Yes, we with the TP, with the stream, the former stream cabs, we've been engaging every year on our local webinar or Zoom meetings. But should we know that all these stakeholders, we would engage them.
Yeah,
we wish to have access in that database here.
Yes,
Okay.
we have to work on this this aspect. As we were discussing on many presentations, we're talking about the communication and how to influence in the local level. But we'll address that. Thank you so much, Finda.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment because there was a question with regards to the to my presentation that one CAP member felt I spoke regarding provincial, not also referring to our local CAPs as well. So I just wanted to emphasize that my talk was based on the onion ring. If ever we can recall our GPP topics, there's that onion ring. So it was based on a local perspective and also a provincial and as well as an international perspective. Because so another thing, my talk, it is based on a boomerang where I'm at a local level, but it goes up to a national and a global, and then also comes back to a local perspective in terms of our community engagement. It's from a local upwards, and then it comes back to local again. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it was quite clear, Finda, but thanks for clarifying that. Boitumelo.
Thank you very much, Ezio.
We can't hear you. Can you speak closer to your microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ezio. Mine is more of a comment than a question. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity that you are granting us in regards to this webinar. For us, I think it's very important and it's encouraging as community engagement CAP in our setting. Because right now we are hit with this coronavirus, and it makes things difficult, especially when it comes to engaging with our community members, because we are having lockdown levels. So you will find that maybe we have planned to have an event or an awareness, and then we are back at level 4, and then it locks everything, because in the level 4, there's restrictions in regards to gatherings. So what I would like is that maybe if we can have more of these types of webinars where we can maybe teach each other as CAB, as community engagement, on other ways and like creative ways on how we can keep CAB going and alive in this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Bpamz. I think this what you raise is something that most people ask it about to improve the advocacy skills, and how do we move in these times of COVID and social isolation. Unfortunately, unless we have a big vaccination in the world, I mean, we will still having to keep many of the activities virtual, and we have to explore that. I mean, this is really a challenging time for everyone, because we have to learn how to work in a different environment. Definitely, I totally agree with you. I think nobody will disagree. The fact that in-person meetings makes all the difference, and especially if we speak about reaching out or touching base with the communities and exchanging and the educational opportunities, etc. So in person it's another thing, but we will have that back in time. But in this meantime, we have to work with the possible conditions, and I think the virtual ones are a great opportunity. And although we are very aware the fact that the people are most vulnerable sometimes don't have access to technologies that allow them to be in groups or to participate well in webinars because of connection or because of the gadgets they have, or the equipment they have. But we have to work with that. We have that in mind, and thank you so much for putting this forward. So I think we have to go to the closing moment. So we will be, we have recorded and we will provide the slides of the webinar soon. So please save the date for the August 12, 21 for our next webinar, the Forum CE Forum Webinar 2 by the TB Alliance. And we will have a follow-up discussion with each team that we will carry out. From now on, we'll be working closer to you. Riva will be sending out a quarter 2 progress report survey soon for us to assess what happened in your CAB or in terms of community engagement between April and June. And we will be working for the CE preparation forum for webinar 2, closer to you. But thank you so much. I mean, this was super rich. I mean, I thank you really, really from the bottom of my heart, because that's how important the communities are. Thank you for your feedback. Over to Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Ezio. And I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to work so closely with Ezio. Just for anyone that's known either of us as long as we've known each other, you know that we've been in this since the beginning of community engagement for TB research, and we're seeing it through. I think that one of the things we've learned over the last year is that although it's hard to not be face-to-face, those interactions over multiple days are so enriching for all of us. But it is cost prohibitive, and by doing these virtual webinars, we have seen that we've been able to include so many more CAB members in this forum than we have in the past. So we are looking forward to continuing that method this year. And in order to sustain these kinds of interactions, you know, I've said this to many of you individually, funding that you receive for community engagement programs can be utilized for supporting CAB members to participate by providing airtime. You know, we've always wanted to provide funding for the in-person interaction that's happening at the research site level, and we know that that's difficult during COVID. One of the adaptations that we're all making is changing the way we utilize our funds to support each other. And so we want to make sure that that's possible to allow people to connect virtually as well. I just wanted to mention on the save the date for August 12th, because the Xenix results are going to be presented at IAS next week. As I said before, we will be sharing those results with everyone via the press release and other written materials as soon as that's public. And the webinar we will hold on August 12th will be a formal presentation on the Xenix results. That webinar will include all of you, everyone invited to this webinar, as well as a much broader stakeholder audience. So I just wanted to keep the door open that Ezio and I may communicate with all of you with a survey question about whether we would like to have a more intimate CE staff and CAB member meeting where we can dive a little bit deeper into all of the discussions that we started today. Certainly some of the interactions we have will be much more focused on these site level community engagement strategies, good participatory practices, as well as advocacy tactics, opportunities, and networks. And we look forward to doing all of that with you. So we will follow up with individual questions. One last thing I just wanted to ask if we can get a raised hand. You know, one thing we were thinking about is at the very least, we will hold another webinar once monthly between now and the end of the year. There will be opportunities for TB Alliance to provide updates in each of those calls. I know today's call was very intensive with half of the time being clinical updates. We think it's very important to continue to provide those updates, but we would like to make sure we have enough time for sharing experience and discussion. So thank you all so much for staying on 51 minutes past our allotted time today.
Yeah, thank you. That was almost 3 hours, but was powerful. And we have still from the community 61 participants. This is great. I thank you so much for this commitment with us. Thank you so much. So thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.